It doesn't matter if you're 35, 45, 55. If you want to do it, if it's in you to do it, just go ahead and try. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kaya. I am an author, a poet, a podcast host, and today I want to talk about something that I feel is a little long overdue. If you've seen the videos on my channel, you've probably seen my podcast where I do interviews with authors and narrators, and you've probably seen some vlogs where you've seen me travel to different cities and book vending and meeting supporters of my work. But one thing I realized I haven't done is officially introduce myself to the watching audience. If you have watched one of my videos, chances are you know I'm an author. Let's talk about the journey it took for me to get there. I'm not going to make this a really long, drawn out story, but I felt that it would be relevant to let you know how I ended up here. I'm going to condense this story down as much as I can. So let me bring you back to the 1900s, right? When I first started writing. The earliest memory I have of myself writing a story, I was about 7 years old when I wrote a story about the killer tomatoes. Now, if you are of a certain age, like myself, you maybe remember the cartoon, The Killer Tomatoes. So what I wrote was my version of how the killer tomatoes came to be. I remember writing that story, being very proud of it. And I showed my mom. My mom read it. She was clearly blown away. At first, she didn't believe that I wrote it at the age of 7. But she believes me. At first, initially she didn't, but when I told her that I wrote it, she believed me. When I look back at that memory now, it makes me feel good and is very significant because it just shows me that at 7 years old, my imagination and my creativity was so high that when my mom read it, she was like, where did you get this from? Like, how did you write this? Type of reaction. So from then, the next significant milestone in my writing comes in my teen years around high school when I started writing poetry. Now, I don't know what made me start writing poetry particularly. I grew up in a very musical household, music always playing. I used to read the back of records. When we had tapes, yes, cassette tapes, I would read the lyrics. I was always that type of person. I was just very curious about lyrics and music and learning rhyme schemes and what are people actually saying in music, because you hear music, you hear the beat, and you just you dance to it. Maybe the chorus, but like, what are the actual lyrics? So that was me. I've always read lyrics, and even now I'll read lyrics. Like, I just can't dance to a song and not know what they're talking about. They could talk about anything. Like, what are you actually saying? But I digress. So in high school is when I started writing poetry a lot. Actually, let me step back from high school. Let me go to middle school where I started writing plays and short stories. Now, the plays that I wrote, I think would now be called fan fiction because I'm just gonna say it. I had this big old crush on Tevin Campbell, right? Come on now. I ain't know, okay? So I had this big old crush on Tevin Campbell, like many girls my age did. We ain't know. But I used to write like these fan fictions of how I would meet him and how we would go on these dates and how we would have all this fun. And it was like overload in my imagination. Like, I remember having so much fun writing those different things and just being creative and thinking about, oh, if I met him, maybe we go to the movies, we would go to the arcade, and things like that. Super age appropriate. So I was writing plays and short stories. It was more than Tevin Campbell, but that's like the most significant one that stands out because I know I wrote many. It's a shame I don't have any of those now, but that's what I was doing in middle school. And then high school, I really got into poetry. Um, Primarily, the poetry was talking about, some of it was about love. I didn't know anything about love. I knew about love songs, but and that was probably the inspiration behind me writing my own poetry, is maybe trying to sound like a love song, but I didn't know anything about it. So I was doing that, and the other poetry that I would write would be like, I don't know, like you know how like battle rappers or whatever, or rappers in general, they brag on themselves like, yeah, I write like this and I write like that and I'm the best to do it, and stuff like that. So I would just write really braggadocious, fun stuff, not to battle anybody, but just for fun, just being creative. So those were like the two mixes of the poetry I wrote in high school. Um, I did realize during that time I did realize during that time that I had a gift for writing. Even though, I had written at 7 and I was writing in middle school, I didn't realize that it was like a natural thing for me, like a natural gift, until high school. One of my high school teachers, she was my AP English teacher. I can't remember her name, but we had this assignment where we had to write, I don't think it was a poem. Hold on. I don't think it was a poem we had to write, but we had to write something like a summary of like a Shakespeare story. I don't remember the assignment, but my interpretation of the assignment is I decided to do Macbeth. It was about Macbeth, because I'll tell you how I remember that. But my interpretation was I wrote a poem. And the reason I remember it was Macbeth is because I had a hook in the poem that kept going back to, I love you to death, my dear Macbeth. Like that was my little hook. So my teacher was like, she said, have you ever considered entering poetry contests before? Like she was so impressed by it. She's like, you really need to do something like enter contests, or is this like what you normally do? And I'm like, no, I never considered entering poetry contests. So she was very encouraging and me entering contests and things like that. Sadly, I didn't. Probably back then I did look for some, or maybe she found some for me, but she was very adamant that I do something more with my writing than just writing an assignment. So that's like the third phase. The fourth phase of my writing, I'm just picking out milestones because I've always had notebooks full of stuff, thoughts, plans, goals, just creative stuff, short stories. I've always been like that. And if you're a writer, you can relate. Tell me how many notebooks you have. Tell me how many notebooks you have. I don't even know how many notebooks I have. But if that has been your journey, then you understand what I'm talking about, that you have notebooks and notebooks full of everything and nothing. So my next significant writing milestone would be as an adult in my 20s, I got back into poetry. However, that poetry turned into live open mic poetry, which turned into slam poetry. And oh my gosh, that's one of the best times in my creative life, is thinking back on that time when I was doing live poetry. Well, open mics and poetry slams and things of that nature. I really feel like my creativity bloomed, blossomed, grew, like did everything during that period of time. I wrote, oh my gosh, so much poetry. And yes, I do still have that poetry for sure. I do still have it. But I did that for a really long time and I enjoyed it. I made a lot of friends during that time. I traveled different places doing poetry. It was just like, I didn't know that I could be that good at poetry. I didn't know that I can enjoy open mics that much because I'm an introvert. I really am an introvert. So me actually going in front of a crowd and performing something I wrote was like a little nerve-wracking, but it was also so liberating at the same time. Um, and it just every time I went, I just wanted to do better and better and better. And I tell you what, it's been a really long time since I've done some open mic poetry. Really long time. I would say maybe, oh man, maybe 15 years, maybe longer than that. Yeah, maybe 15 years. Yeah, maybe. But I'll tell you this. I can almost guarantee you this. If I went to an open mic today, I could still get down with the rest of them. Like that is still in me. That poetry performer is still in me. It has not left me. It's just a part of who I am. So yeah, I would have my nerves or whatever I would have. Uh, Maybe I would have to read from a paper or read from my phone because back then I memorized everything. But I still feel like I can do a really good open mic poetry. I feel like I can do a poetry slam. Maybe not place first, but I think I could definitely place. So poetry really, I consider that my first love. Even though I started with short stories, I consider poetry my first love. I fell in love with writing poetry. So let me move on. Let me move on. So the next significant milestone is more recent. Let me tell you how I got into writing my first novel, right? So picture it, the year 2021, in the middle of COVID. But for real though, it was COVID-esque. Hold on now. Hold on. Hold on. Let me see. Yep. Peppermint tea, little bit of honey. Sorry for the slurp, but hold on. Hmm, very nice. All right. So this is how me writing my first novel happened. Over the years, I have wanted to write a book. I never knew how. I knew I could write a book, but I never knew the process of if I write a book, how do I get it from my manuscript to someone else's hand? I never knew that. I never knew how to do that. But what had happened was, so in 2021, I began working from home. And when you come from working in a building with people and coworkers and customers all the time, you're used to constantly engaging with people, and then you start working from home where it's just you really have to try to figure out, at least for me, I had to really figure out what type of background noise could I listen to. Like it was just so quiet. It was peaceful. It was peaceful. I'm not saying I want to go back to office, but I am saying it was so quiet that I had to figure out what I could have around me or what I could listen to, what I could do. So, of course, I'm listening to music. Listening to music, okay, while I'm working. That was cool. Kind of got burnt out on that, even though I listen to music every day, but listening to music for a whole shift, that's a lot of music. All right, so listening to music kind of got old. So I'm like, well, what else can I listen to? So I got on Audible. I'm like, okay, I can listen to audiobooks. So I started out listening to self-help books. Like, I can't think of any names of the book, but they were all like self-help books, something to kind of fortify me as I'm working. Okay, started listening to that. I kind of got burnt out on those. I'm like, okay, every day can't be self-help. Every day can't be super serious. What else can I listen to? And I'm like, well, maybe I should find a book to listen to. All right. So, and let me pause and say this. I was an avid reader. I was. As I've gotten older, I was not reading that much. I will say that. I will admit to that. Send the police, arrest me, but this is just a fact. I've always written. I haven't always read. Used to be an avid reader, not so much as I got older. I don't know why, but I digress. So I decided I wanted to listen to something that was entertaining. So I'm like, well, I'm a sucker for a good romance movie or a comedy movie. Like, let me see if I can find like a romance book. And then I'm like looking, hood and romance, all types of stuff came up. Let me look for black romance, right? So hold on. I'm getting there. Hold on. I don't want my tea to get cold. Ain't nothing worse than cold tea. Mm. So I looked up black romance. And so I'm looking up black romance and a whole world just opened up. I'm like, what? It was so much to choose from. I didn't know where to start. I had not been on Audible before. I had not been reading black romance. I did not know any of these authors. I didn't know any of the narrators. And this was 2021. I didn't know anything. And when I put in black romance, I was overwhelmed by how much had come up. I was really overwhelmed. I was surprised. I was happy that it was such a selection. So I eventually ended up listening to, and I don't know the name of the book offhand, but the author is Stephanie Nicole Norris, and the narrators were Jacoby Diem and Wesley Siobhan. Now, if you are in the black romance audiobook world, you know that is the duo you want to listen to. That's one of the duos that you want to listen to. So I had a really great start, and Stephanie Nicole Norris's catalog go long. Okay, it go long. So I'm listening to the book, and if I look through my Audible catalog, if I remember to pop up the book here, I'll just put it on the screen. So I just remember, okay, let me listen to the book. Got my little Audible membership. Let's listen to the book. And as I'm working, I'm listening to the book. I'm like, oh, yes. All right. It was like the first time I experienced a book that really depicted black characters, black love, real situations, and just overcoming and love and communication. It was just like I fell in love, y'all. So I listened to the book and then I became hooked. Just that quick, I became hooked. I started listening to everybody and everything. And I was listening to Jacoby and Wesley. Jacoby and Wesley, I started with that. And then, when you're on Audible, you listen to one thing, you get a recommendation for another. You get a recommendation for another. And I mean, I was going through books. Like, it was sometimes I'm working and I'm going through a book a day. And I don't mean no 4-hour books. I mean like 6, 7, 8-hour books, a book a day. I would be done working and I would finish listening to the book after work. So I really was inundated with black romance, black authors, indie authors, audiobooks, narrators. And I'm like, you know what? I can do this. I can write my own story. I know I could do this. I can. And I'm looking at all these authors doing it and being inspired by them and these stories that they're writing. I'm like, I have so many stories in me that I never tried to get out. I'm like, yo, I can do this. So in 2021, I began writing my first novel. in, let me think, I believe I started writing it in March 2021, and it was published in August 2021. I went through that could be another video, the whole process I went through to get it from the manuscript to a paperback. I could do a whole other video on that. If you would like for me to do a video on that, just leave a comment below and let me know. But I started writing it, and though I had the story in me, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And here's another significant thing that I want to point out about my author journey and my locks. So I actually locked my hair the end of January. Well, I did it January 31st, February 1st. Like, I took 2 days to do it. So January 31st, February 1st, 2021, I began locking my hair. I started my own locks. And then the month after, I started writing my book. So my lock journey and my author journey are aligned. So I think that's pretty cool that when I see my locks or whatever, it reminds me of how long ago I started my author journey. So that's how I started writing novels. There was a part of me that felt like maybe I'm doing this too late. Hold on. So there was a part of me that thought, I'm getting ready to be 40 and I'm just now starting this. I felt like I'm kind of late in the game, like, I should have did this a long time ago. But really and truly, over time, I've come to realize that this happened for me at the time it was supposed to happen for me. I was in the right space physically and mentally to actually sit down and write this type of story. I could not have written this type of story. I couldn't have done it 10 years ago. I couldn't have done it 5 years ago. That was the right time for me to start. So yeah, I'm just like, well, yeah, oh well. For me, once I realized that it happened at the time it was supposed to happen for me, the whole, oh, I'm getting ready to be 40 thing, that went out the window. I'm like, I'm here, I'm doing this now, and I'm going to enjoy the journey. So from that first book has come more books, but that's how I started my author journey. I've always been a writer. Back in the day, I did some chapbooks, which are like little poetry books you put together, and you sell them at the poetry events you go to. I even did, hold on now. Now hold on, y'all. I even did a poetry CD. Yes, I did. And a poetry CD. Yes, I did, with beats, with ad libs, with reverb, with all of that. I have tracks of my poetry. Yes, I do. If you want to hear some of that, leave a comment below. I'm just saying, I got it in the chamber. I got it in the chamber. Overall, I wanted to make this video to let you know that if you have something in you that you want to do, just go ahead and do it. It doesn't matter if you're 35, 45, 55. If you want to do it, if it's in you to do it, just go ahead and try. Just go ahead and start. It will be okay. Don't worry about, oh, I should have done this however long ago. Don't even worry about that. Do it now. You're here now. You have what you need in you to do it now. Because if it's been tugging at your mind, tugging at your heart, and it's been in there just sitting there, like, let it out, man. Just let it out. I'm just saying. So I believe that's all I have to say for this video. I don't know. Let me know what you think. If you want to see more videos from me like this, I don't know. Just let me know in the comments. I want to be able to give y'all the type of content y'all y'all like and y'all would like to see from me. So I guess that's it. Before I go, hold on, hold on. All right. So before I go, I wanted to put a spotlight on this shirt that I'm wearing that says, Black women deserve soft love in every story, right? So this shirt is one of my designs for my merch line called the Black Thread. I have a line that is dedicated towards book lovers, authors, and narrators. And this is one of my favorite designs. This is a unisex crew neck. This is the purple color. This is very comfy, very cozy, good quality. I have the Black Thread logo on the arm right there. I I've done all the designs myself and I'm really proud of this line. So if you like this shirt or if you know someone who would like this shirt, I will leave the link down below for you to purchase this and, take a look around the shop. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching this video and I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye.